I actually started recording, and today's section is called Tea with Les and Noelle Conn, and that's a wonderful tradition. I actually have my tea here, and so in my desire to convince them to come often to this program, perhaps regularly, they were so kind as to accept, and they're preparing a very nice tea for this chat. So welcome everyone to the blog. I couldn't be happier to have Les and Noelle Conn back in the program. Hello, how is everything going?
Hello, Francis. How are you?
That's so nice, the tea.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
My absolute delight. My absolute delight. Let's have a sip. And how was your week?
It's been okay. Same old story. We do martial arts, which is what everybody wants to do. So I suppose we're living the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not too much. We love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe perhaps later on we'll have the opportunity to talk about what is it that you do on a daily basis, and we'll have a chat to a chance to go there. But before that, I've been listening, keeping an eye for things that you have, and had the chance to listen to another interview that was very happy came out, and I think it had more of a tone of archaeology or historical research, and I'll put the link in the notes. But I am very happy that you're getting more exposure, because I'm a big believer that the uniqueness of your approach, both to martial arts, which you do have, and to the rigorous research of the history of the martial arts, which is, I think, very rare, should be more known and have more exposure. So, anything we can do to create more avenues for people out there to know about you, I welcome them. So that was really nice. That was very good, and I hope you continue that.
Thank you. It was enjoyable, I must say. It was fun.
Yeah. So, all right. We were talking the other day, and by the way, thank you in the sense that not only was great fun to talk to you too, it was the most popular clip that I've put out. Listeners loved it. And I think that is a good sign, because we're not, there is a little bit of, sometimes I get a little disillusioned about the martial arts world. Is everyone looking for just a superficial, and maybe not. Maybe there are enough people that are sincere out there about the journey as a tough journey of discovering oneself, but also treating the martial arts with seriousness. And the fact that interview was very popular was very encouraging. And so thank you very much. That's another very good reason to do this regularly.
No, thank you. And, just a quick note there on what you said. I think there is lots of people out there who could or would be interested. But the truth is that we've arrived at 2021, and the amount of real information available in martial arts is dead. All we're going over is the same old, same old, same old. There's no innovation, there's no research, it's just dead. And I personally think that that's part of the problem. But I think that's why we're here tonight, to chat.
And is that, were you keenly aware, this is completely, I did not prepare the question, but the comment you just made makes me think, was that part of your motivation to get into the historical research? Because there's a difference between loving the martial arts and feeling that desire to understand the history of it rigorously, which means you don't go into it with an agenda. Well, let's see what you find. And so it takes courage to do that. What motivates someone to do such a serious endeavor?
Well, I think in our case, a real desperation for the truth, because as you know, I'm sure where you are is no different to anywhere else. There's always smoke and mirrors and lies and egos and all these things. And it was me who sort of pushed for it, I have to say, to Noelle's dismay. But I wanted to know what was it? What was the real truth? Because if there was a truth, let's say 400,000 or 500,000 years ago, whatever it was, perhaps that truth could be here today. But you need a a role model, if you like, to work towards. And that's what we thought history would give us, and it has.
Interesting. That's very interesting. So the other day you hinted at your work on a book that may cover these topics. Is this what you try to peel off and unravel in your upcoming book?
Yes, very much so. In that particular subject, you know, that was from the last interview, you discovered that we were involved with the Chinese art of stealth, of which nobody really knows it existed. There are hints, but no one really knew. And we uncovered the whole thing. In fact, even beyond our own wildest dreams. So I think we owe it to put something out there. Unfortunately, we're not scholars, so it's been a little bit of a struggle how to present it and how to put it out. And it has to be done in a really top class way. So, but yeah, in essence, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and can I just say this I'm sorry, but when you were having that interview, which was very interesting to me because I love the topic of rigorous historical research, I think repeatedly you stated, especially Noelle, stated that you're not scholars. But I'm not sure what a scholar is defined. If you already have more sources and the rigorous approach to this study and more knowledge than it's common out there, not even common, but even out there at all, then maybe that's being a scholar. I think what defines a scholar is the rigorous approach to it, treating it as a scientific approach. And in that sense, I believe you two are very much scholars. And I think the upcoming book will prove that to the audience.
Well, thank you.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right, so let's take the journey. We were delighted to hear about the adventure in Hong Kong, incredible. And one thing we could do is talk about, then all of a sudden you find yourselves having learned Yin Fa, practiced many years, as well as anything else you studied in your teacher, and with these records and historical knowledge. And it's time to do something with that. What is it that you think about, and what do you do at that point?
No, you better start. I'll just.
Okay, so I've always got to get things rolling, as you know. So before Guan Sifu had died, we all knew we would arrive at this place at some point. Guan Sifu had already told us that we're going to succeed him. And I think at that point, you're all just living in a floaty dream world. And then one day, boom, Guan Sifu's gone. And I have to say, it was a little bit of a shock. Let's come back to that. But prior to that, we had already been building schools in the Far East, of which we had 4 in different countries. And those schools were working okay. I mean, they were popular. And we learned a lot from them. But what we discovered was we were just teaching what everybody taught. Certainly for the last couple of 100 years. We can't be absolutely sure as we further back we go who was teaching what. But then it started to occur to me just around the time that Guan Sifu died, that when Guan Sifu dies, what are we? So yeah, you can say we're the hereditary masters, but that's just names. If you're really going to fill that position, what is it that you're going to do? Because in our lineage of 7 generations, each generation has done something for at that time, in that place, at that culture, to keep it going or to make it better. And that was when it first struck me that we ought to do something for our generation. And I think this is where the conversation gets interesting, because most people don't change anything. If anything, people are looking backwards all the time, thinking about, oh, I've got to keep tradition. I've got to keep tradition. And we have too, but within that framework, we've innovated, I think. So at the time, or before Guansifo died, then as he died, and we move into the new era, we had already started building a school with a new approach to teaching. Take note, we didn't change the art, we changed the way we teach it and practice it and how we present it. Because, you know, to put it in modern terms, you've got to have cool value. You know, you've got to have something there that people are interested in. Otherwise, it's going to die. And that doesn't help anybody. And that's the part I think we need to innovate and people need to change things is, what can we do here and now in our place? Stop looking backwards. And what can we do to contribute? And actually, it's a very humbling experience because you realize how infinitely small you are. You want to now pass something along that's come a long, long way. You have to change something, but whoops, I'm only this big. And so we talked a lot, and Noelle has a passion for teaching kids. And in that, we decided that one of the things we will do is to create a child development program. So we'll take all of these fantastic skills that you only dream about, and let's put it into kids and let's watch kids just explode. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we went with it.
We're doing now, yeah.
And we've been running that for several years, obviously. So we've been teaching people and kids for probably must be 33, 34 years. But in the beginning, we had Guansifo helping us. And then it's like handing over a relay baton. So he passed the baton to us. And then now we do it all our way. And it's all our innovation. And so far, touch wood, very, very successful.
So no, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. This is fascinating. So I'm seeing multiple threads of interest here. One very interesting concept is this inherent innovation in martial arts. And I say inherent because I think you're right that innovation is misunderstood normally in that obsession to keep the traditional aspect, which may not contradict at all with innovating. You can be at the same time very true to the art and innovate. And don't you think, like I like to think, but would love to think, to validate this with you. Traditional martial arts had that built in, meaning in the traditional times, in the ancient times, they were innovating. Partly because I don't think we would have received them today from anyone if they hadn't adapted to their time. They wouldn't have been able to survive. And also partly because maybe if the nature of a martial art is to be resilient and adaptable, it would have done that anyway. It's part of what it does, you know? So is that how you tackle innovation? And how much of that innovation was the desire to make it an appealing curriculum for children?
In that sense, we make it, instead of grilling and
standing in marble,
standing in a stance for hours and ends, we make it fun for children, especially young children, and using game to make them strong and make them doing the things that we do to make them practice without realizing they're practicing martial arts.
You have to cheat children. Children don't want to do things like standing in stances and, you know.
Yeah. And we don't do people. You see some I would say most of the school they're doing just say, okay, make the kids stronger. They must do 100 push-up or sit up, run around. But that is very regimented. And children these days, if you want to get something out of these intelligent children that we have in this era, you cannot just ask them to stand there or do jump up and down for 100 jumps, and then it's all very serious. There's no laughter, there's no fun, and then you lose a student to something else. So what we do is we gamify. What we use the word is we gamify you put in games to make them do the specific thing that we want them to achieve.
Yeah.
Right.
So, for example, everybody talks about Hing Gong, that's the Cantonese, Qing Gong in Mandarin,
Yeah.
which is light skill.
Light body skill.
So that would involve some gymnastics, running on roofs, running on walls, things like that. We turn that into games. I don't want to tell you too much, sorry.
That's fair.
Yeah.
We make these games that are super exciting for kids,
Yeah.
games that their parents would never allow them to do on their own.
Yeah.
But because we're there and because we've nurtured the parents as well,
Yeah.
they play these games. And then, you know, we basically, and in all truth, we cannot take any more. We are absolutely full.
Yeah.
Because it's that popular.
But, yeah, and also we full because we have a limited amount of students per class. We're not just gonna pound in like hundreds of kids in one class and then just going crazy. We have a very much of a quality and then control with what we teach and how many students we have per class. So make sure everybody got all the attention that they deserve. Yeah.
So and there is one other factor, and that is that at the absolute top, the pinnacle of what we do, we want to pass on the martial art. So that we will never ever stray from that. So somebody comes in wanting to pay fees. The fees only get you through the door. The martial art is what we do.
Yeah. So yeah, so of course everyone have to pay the fees, member fees, and then they come through, and then they have all the kids and the parents have to, in a sense, they understand what we do, and then they have to kind of entrust the program that we run for the benefit of the children. And then at the end of the day, when they just say the kids get to the junior black belts, the standard will be upheld. So they will be able to run walls and certain sort of light body skill and kicking, punching, takedowns, and all this sort of thing, all will be achieved through all these years of training, playing some sort of games, and also not all of them are games, but a lot of the games, and they will have achieved
what's needed to get there. Yeah. So, for example, our little junior black belts, they can take that test up until 12 years old. They are required, the final test, I beg your pardon, there's many tests, but the final test is you have to face a minimum of 19 opponents. It could be up to 23 opponents, one after the other, full contact, no gloves, anything allowed other than kill each other.
no heads.
No deliberate head strikes, but that does happen.
Can happen.
So it's basically like a Kyokushin contest at these little guys, and they are going like heck. And they are very, very tough. It normally takes around an hour. We have plenty of tears, but it's become a, what do you want to call it? A thing that when you get through, you are. So yeah, they're definitely worth it, and it does work. There's no question it works. We've had plenty of years to do it. The problem that we're facing is the parents.
Not just the parent. I think that's generally the social environment has become, what is the word? Much softer.
Yeah.
So for us, it's for the children to have the tenacity and courage to go through something. To them at that age, I think it's quite a big deal.
It's a huge thing for them.
Quite a big deal. I think, it's not something that for general public, people see it, they might not understand the importance of the test.
You have to be a parent who wants your child to become strong mentally and physically. This is not about violence. As you know, being a martial artist, most martial artists, funnily enough, know that.
Yeah.
It's not about violence, but nobody likes to fight. Oh, no normal person likes to go in and fight too much. So when you put a nice, normal little guy or girl into a test like that, it's an adverse condition. But what it does is develop their body and their mind, and they come out believing in themselves. You should see them. We see the results.
Yeah.
They believe in themselves forever after that,
Yeah. I believe
Sorry.
this very strongly, very strongly. I think you are doing a great service to this generation. And if I may say, Les, you and I chatted about this, but I'm a big believer that this is perhaps missing in society for sure, in schools for sure, but in martial arts schools too, of all places, which is such a shame. And you see this in a fight. You're a martial art expert, so you will know this. In a fight, you will always see that no amount of body mechanical knowledge can trump toughness.
Yes.
The one that's the tough one, the one that has gone in life through situations that have made that person tough, wins. Done.
Agreed.
And that's the same true in situations in life. And that's what you're doing, giving kids that. It's just a shame that it's so hard to see. You would think school would do that for kids, right?
Yeah, but that's the problem. All the schools have defaulted to everything weak, everything pathetic, because everybody, and martial arts schools included, everybody's defaulting to money. We used to default to principles, and from principles we'd make money. Now we don't. We default only to money. And I think that's been a huge downfall, not only in martial arts, but the society as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, that's why I said we had problems with the parents. I mean, it's not literally we have problems with the parents, but the parents they like the idea of their child being strong. But then when they see things happening, oh, hang on,
especially about the grading is the biggest, I think is the biggest hurdle that parents has to get over. Not so much children. Children, of course, they want the next grade, next bout like their friends, But I think sometimes the parent will be more, what do you call the word?
Concerned.
Yeah, the parent will be more worried that if the kid not getting the next bout like their peers, and they will come and ask us, when is my son or my daughter get to the next bout or next grade? And then when we say, well, when they're ready. And then there's, okay, when are they going to be ready? Sometimes they even say, oh, what is your curriculum? What's your test? Tell us. And then we'll give them just a general piece of paper that say all they need to require to do, plus, of course, a discretion from the teacher. Yeah. So sometimes not just physical test that we look at, sometimes when a kid could be, because we are very much connected each one. So each kids, the characters are different, and the body also the physical ability is different. So we look at each one. We trying to get the best out of each kid. So yeah. So the basic requirement for physical ability is there, but this fine tuning we have to work on each kid. Right? Yeah. Sometimes, it's quite a tedious work.
Yeah. One of the reasons I'm really fascinated with what you're saying is because, we could have a listener now thinking, well, I'm not a kid anymore. I don't teach kids. How is this applicable? But here's what's very interesting. I believe martial arts should be doing this for people, no matter the context in which you're studying them. Because if you think about today in society, so we live many thousands of miles away, but we both live in today's society. I'm not expecting a martial arts student to go out and literally use the skills in life. The number one, when they ask me what's the value of martial arts, the number one thing is that toughness that it gives you to face life. And life is very tough. And you see in this society, people collapsing, social, riots, and people snap, and, all this. This is all because they don't have the strength. And when there's problems in life, we suffer a lot, and our psychology hasn't been built. So what you're doing for kids, in my opinion, if someone is listening to this and they train in any city or town in the world, and they have a martial arts program, I think look for that program to be making you tough, to make you strong, to make you hard. If there is a true pressure testing and you struggle with the delta between what you can do and what you imagined you could do, that's testing you and making it hard. And if it's not that, if you just want the martial arts to pat yourself on the back, there's so many other things that can give you that, you know?
Correct.
And so I love what you're saying, because in a way it's, I think, a missing link in martial arts. Certainly martial arts for children here doesn't have that angle, but there are schools or perhaps teachers that do teach their students with that intensity. They worry about, does this mean it's not commercial? I'm going to make money. This is a great contradiction. But in reality, I believe it's one of the number one values we can get from martial arts in today's society is priceless. That toughness, that strength.
I think, so let me backpedal. I've spoken to a number of teachers, martial arts teachers in your country, and every one of them will say to me within 30 seconds, if I teach like that, I won't have a school. And I don't agree. I'll tell you why. We also thought the same thing. We thought, well, are we outdated? And the answer is no. A, you must educate the public. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And you must gain their trust. When people see your kids developing,
you must get the results.
yeah, you have to
Show
go for
the
the result.
results. If you have the results, then people will look and they will ready to listen.
Correct. Then once you've got a whole bunch of dynamic little people, you'll find it'll just go by itself. And people will less and less question your motives. I won't say it'll go away, it won't go away, because everybody's always too cautious and so on. But it can be done. And what's interesting is you said, okay, so people are saying about the kids, well, so what? Well, this is the next generation of martial artists, that's what. And if the next generation are not coming up with a standard equal to, let's say, 300 years ago, then what are we doing? What I see online now, and there's, as you know, there's plenty of joke channels where they make fun of martial artists, particularly Chinese martial artists. We have asked, or we brought that upon ourselves as a community, and we mustn't. We must return to what it was. If we don't know, we must find out. We must ask people who do know. And we must push to get our entire community up, our children up. This is why I say we need to innovate and think beyond ourselves, not just what am I doing? The people who are thinking, well, I'm going to have a school, I won't have a school if I don't take that person. Why are you thinking like that? You should be thinking, I teach a martial art, a warrior art. Martial means of the military, war. What are you doing teaching children that are, for example, special needs children? Now, I advocate that martial arts can be used for helping special needs children. We both agree. There's no question, it benefits everybody. What I don't agree with is you don't put special needs children with other kids, because now you've got just a mess. You have a separate class, you teach them, you help them using your tools of martial arts. But your martial arts class must be the historical martial arts. That's where we stand on that. I think I've said enough. Sorry.
Yeah, so what's interesting, what I hear you say is that, you know, the state of martial arts, we're not only trying to save that through our own practice and passion, but building that strength in the next generation, because soon enough we won't be around and they will be around, and who's going to be there to hold that and teach the next generation, and not to mention what it does for their lives, right? Which I'm a big believer. You also say, Les, that you don't really believe that this is not a model that won't work if you do it seriously, like you are. In other words, people are really worried about it, but perhaps they need a little courage in putting their foot down and teaching this discipline to kids, and perhaps the kids will react well, and then their parents will see. So it can be done well, basically. We're saying it may sound hard, but it can be done well, and you two are a great example of that, which is why I'm so happy we're talking about this. It's fundamental. I'm a big believer of that. This is not, like I always, sometimes friends who come with problems and people, society, and we go through painful moments. It's a difficult life. And I always point them to nature and the universe. So look around you. Do you see that everything is rainbows and butterflies in nature? Nature is brutal.
Yeah, it is.
And universe is brutal. Planets and galaxies are being destroyed as we speak. The pattern of reality is brutal. And there's one thing, fighting for survival. And if you have that strength in you, you can relax when it's the end of the day, put your fire, make your tea, and relax because you have the strength to think tomorrow I'll fight the battle again and I'll survive again. Without strength, how can you live in this? It's pure misery. And so becoming strong is very important. And I think the martial arts should be doing that for us, right? Every time my sifu corrects me, something that I've been doing for freaking, I don't know how long, and I'm like, oh man, how can I still not get this right? That's what he's doing. He's making me tough through, man, don't take it as like, oh, my poor ego is hurt. What am I going to do? Let me run home. He's making me strong. And that's how we teach today, So
that's why you have a sifu.
That's right. That's right. From here, thank you, Sifu George Lee. Thank you very, very much. I hope he listens to this and smiles. It'd be wonderful. So, all right, let me rewind. You mentioned teaching through game, through playing, because they're kids, right? And I can see on one hand, the social applicability of that, but also, isn't that how we learn? I mean, when I look at nature again, that's my pattern of observation. This is how, a lion would learn to hunt through playing, right? With the siblings when they're little. And I think we internalize things through repetition, but the repetition to happen often has to be enjoyable. Otherwise, you don't do it. So I think you've also stumbled upon a little bit of the trick of how we learn, especially when we're younger, which is through play. I think it's entirely natural that we learn through play. So in that sense, you may have innovated, but you're still being very true to human nature. Was that deliberate?
Yes, we like you. We look to the universe as the example, and the universal way is play when you're young. That's how you find yourself in 3D space and how you build your skills and so on. Yeah.
So the kids must come home from your class having had a wonderful time, right? I mean, I bet your kids have a wonderful time in class.
Definitely.
Yeah. We're also quite strict in the opposite direction. We have fun, we have games, but they have to follow the rules and they have to have some sort of discipline. Otherwise, they be out of the game we call it timeout. Yeah, it's not a big thing for them as a timeout, but if they're missing the game, that is a big thing for them. So no one wants to have timeout.
Yeah. And we're very strict with the timeout. You face the wall, eyes closed, you don't move. Yeah. This is where the martial arts part comes hard.
Yeah.
So we have, our motto is strong in hand, kind in heart. So you play the games, you're going to have a great time. You're going to somersault, jump, run, do all the things you do. And you can do more than other kids, but step out of line and you're over there facing the wall, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because if you think about organized games, even when you're a kid, rules come in naturally, because without those rules, there's no enjoyment, because there's no plot of the game. You can't have it. I remember very, very young, I used to play with my sister, who is just a year older than me. And you have these games in which you pretend to do this and be that character or something. And you have to stay in line, because if you do whatever you want, then the other one was like, all right, man, I can't play like this, because if you do what you want, there has to be those rules. On the other hand,
sorry,
but no, please go ahead.
I was just going to add I don't know if you've experienced this where you are, but children are changing. There's a lot of argument going on. There's a lot of childhood ego growing. So I want what I want. I don't care what you want. Mm-hmm. So what we're noticing is that our organized, managed play, if you want to call it that, is actually benefiting them in many ways because they can't argue with us. We don't, that's not how it works. We in that way, we are,
The referee.
yeah, we're the be all and end all, the law.
Yeah.
Sifu say so.
Sifu say yes.
What ends up happening is they end up playing more, it's beneficial, but they have more fun in these games than they do even when at school or at home playing, whatever, because all those times these days, they're all arguing.
Right.
And here that's not happening.
Yeah, it's wonderful, you know. But even as I think of the concept of learning through play, right? You know, when we're adults and we train with our teacher as adults, which is harder to learn, right? Because you've already formed. But even then, you know, with the teacher, you are going to receive some sort of guidance and pointing and blueprint, that we like to call it. But then you take that, if you really want to get good, you basically take that blueprint and play with it. You have to play with it, which is experiment. This is why people say they're having fun doing martial arts. Why would they? Because it feels like play. I've learned this it's not even a skill. It's the potential of a skill. It's this framework that could develop into a skill. And through playing by myself, doing the forms, going with my Kung Fu brothers or sisters, you know, like playing with someone or teaching it, you basically experiment.
Yes.
In your mind, you're like, you know, I'm going to try it this way. I'm going to do it this way. And, oh my God, it works this way, but it doesn't. And what is that? That's just like unraveling that blueprint and playing with it. I don't really think a martial artist that has got into a point of being good and confident, it's just because they spend time with a teacher or a class. Is probably because that person, through passion, through, you know, the fact that they have a very good time training and discipline too, played a lot with what they were learning and played. And that you repeat. So how many times did you do this? 10,000 times. Wow, man, if you stay on if I sit on that corner and do this movement 2,000 times, I jump off the window. But if you do it through play, with a friend, with a partner,
yeah,
it went like that.
Yeah, effortless.
And you know, if you look at how you're going to develop a child these days, let's say you want to develop upper body, you're going to run into a brick wall. You can't get them to do press-ups. But we've got certain games that gets them to do cartwheels. Our kids, believe this, can cartwheel for 1 hour non-stop. I mean it, literally 1 hour of cartwheels. That is incredible strength. But if
Incredible.
The new kids will get dizzy, but the kids that have been
Yeah.
with us for a while, they just like non-stop.
That's amazing.
And so it just shows you how strong and resilient they can be.
The body can, yeah.
You know, if you just find a way.
Exactly. If you find a way to build that into something that looks like a game. Yeah. I'm cheating because I have seen some clips in your channel, which I will also refer to, of your current school. And I see those kids doing things like I'm watching the Justice League movie. It's like, how can these kids do this? I mean, I'm serious. I see these kids jump from walls and somersaults, and they're basically modern day ninjas. And I'm sorry for the cliche, but I don't see people doing that here. And it's like, look at these kids. They're going to be like the next generation super heroes. I mean, it's really impressive. I'll make sure I put the link and encourage the audience to watch those. But it's amazing, and they must love. They must gain a lot of confidence in being able to do things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we were talking about innovation. We'll tell you it's been a long time in the making, but now we've arrived at this new, what do you want to call it, point of innovation. What we've done is we've created a little team that at the moment we call them the Black Tigers because they wear black. And oops, what was that mean there? And the Black Tigers are this little team of people this big who just run in on a demonstration, somersaulting and diving off walls and all the rest of it, to the awe of everybody around them. So now there's some cultural, what's the word, status to be in the Tigers. And we were deliberately pushing in that direction. But you have to earn the status. You can't just get it, you know. And so we've just arrived at that point now. And these little guys are just so proud to be in the Black Tiger. It's amazing.
Of course. That is so, I love that concept. I love it. Yeah. You have to give the kids something to be proud of, you know. You're making me think many, many years ago, I did a little bit of a class on Montessori educational system. And I'm not here to advocate one or the other. It's been a long time ago and I'm not really familiar, but I do remember one concept, which is when you had difficult kids, quote unquote, that's kind of a stigma, right? That usually what it meant is they had a lot of energy that they don't know how to channel. And so the Montessori system took them and put them in charge of younger kids, which is funny because these would be the traditional kids that would be punished. And instead of that, it kind of gave them a chance to, and they immediately rose to the challenge. Oh, another year, I do this and do that. They became teachers all of a sudden with little ones and said, wow, what a transformation, So giving them a reason to be proud of. And the parents might also like, I didn't know my kid was becoming superhero. What a wonderful thing you're doing. Yes. Do you also think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to get, I think you're going to ask the question.
Well, I was actually going to say if you teach adults too, and how do you adapt your innovation and your system to adults?
Okay, so with the adults, we've got to be a little bit more hardcore in the sense that we cannot take anybody overweight or with other difficulties, because the pressure on the joints when you're getting older and things like that, you just don't have the time to build up like the kids do. So in a sense, we have to be a little bit more strict, or we have to refuse people because of the nature of the art. It is by its nature very athletic and so on. And I don't want someone dropping of a heart attack either, So there is that. However, what we did was two major things in innovation. The first one was we looked at the end goal of the martial art, of our martial art. And it's like a thread running through the art. And we take that and we show it to them right in the beginning, which no other martial art does, no other school does. We say, here's the answers. These are all the answers you ever want to know. These are the secrets. And almost everybody is immediately motivated that they can suddenly understand why and what they're doing. So that's one point that we did. Because I don't know if you've ever practiced karate or anything like that, but you stand doing your karate punches for 10,000 times and it goes on for year after year. And you're questioning why. And no one will ever tell you why, because that's the way. So we thought, delete. Not delete the repetition or anything like that. Delete the concept of not saying why.
Right.
We live in an age where information helps people. Information is empowering. Now that is a problem to some teachers because they don't know why they do things. But in our case, we're nosy. We go and find out.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we do. We take the end thing, we show them. The second thing we do is we train with real weapons. Beautiful real weapons all the time, and that we find really stimulates the people that train with us. So we throw projectiles, we shoot bows, we use beautiful swords, and we cut objects. We do things that are real and real part of martial arts, and the explosion of interest from that is phenomenal. We don't restrict chit chat. So people chit chat, and you come to our school for community as well. So you chat with your friends, you kick the bag.
You have a laugh sometimes.
Yeah, we have lots of laughing.
And then Sibyl will tease them sometimes.
Yeah, I'm terrible for teasing and ripping people. And the teenagers and the adults, I swear at them, all in good humor, you know what I mean? And that whole rapport has taken hold in the school.
Yeah.
So everybody,
So that is very
and the adults are bringing the older teens, not the babies, but the older teens, they're bringing them up the same way. So that the older teens are not full of complexes. They're all full of confidence and happy of themselves and humble, because you're up against big guys that are strong, you know?
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the things that we do that's different.
different, yeah, very different.
When you teach, so I can imagine the when you mention the weapons, I mean, it must feel really authentic. It's the curriculum. Do you say, I'm going to teach you martial arts, or do you say Yin Fa? Are you teaching Yin Fa to adults, or are you teaching a combination that is appropriate for, maybe, because you mentioned you learned Shaolin and Yin Fa from your own teacher. So do you believe in this labeling, or is just martial arts?
No, we do label. We don't teach Shaolin per se. I won't say we don't teach some of it, but there's 10 million so-called Shaolin schools out there, and they can do that. Yeah. We, or my specific interest, is Yin Fa, so we go along that. It's just a weird passion of mine. I love it. I think it's unique. I also like that it can stimulate people or give people an ideal. They can see an ideal and they can say, I want to do that. And even if you never get there, you're on this journey to get there. You can see what it is. Whereas if you practice Shaolin or anything else, what is actually the ideal? Where are you going to? There's no end goal. But if I say to somebody, and I pick up a document from the Song dynasty, and it says, the nature of a stealthy spy is to whip over the walls at night. So now these walls are 50 foot high, let me tell you. Yeah. You have to ask yourself, can I develop that skill? So there is a very concrete association connected to it. And I really like that. And I think that really helps people with their martial arts training. And it doesn't matter if you don't get there. What matters is that you go on that journey and try. Yeah. Actually, I hope that point is clear to listeners. I think it has many implications. Martial arts, as you make them socially responsible, they also lose authenticity in the sense that how can you prove that? If the goal is to fight multiple opponents that are really trying to hurt you, that's not an easy thing for you to have as a goal. And it's funny because even in my own art, we are training for goals that are practically impossible and undesirable. Like, we don't want that to happen. So basically, I'm just thinking, as you mentioned this, that it's a very healthy thing to say, well, look, when you can climb that wall and go there stealthily and come back with whatever, then you've learned this skill, right? And that's a beautiful thing, because it's not disconnected from reality. I'm not saying other martial arts shouldn't do it, but this is one of my obsessions, which is the ability to take the curriculum and make it into testable things. Because otherwise, like you said, what are you, another principle of learning, in addition to playing, I think, is practicing with intent. The mind has to be in, where am I going? I don't just do it to do it. I do it with an intent. Other people might call it intention or deliberate practice. But it's hard to have intent when you don't know towards what, right? So I love that point you made, and I'm sorry I'm making a big deal out of it, but this is the purpose of this channel, to take these timeless principles, how people are actually using them. As if I was a student in your school, the fact that you would give me, even though they're hard, they feel like achievable milestones that one day I cannot lie to myself whether I'm able to do it or not. And that's my point, that you cannot lie to yourself whether you're doing it them or not. Yeah. You said an interesting expression there. So, what did you say about we've socialized the martial arts, or liberalized, or I'm not sure what word you used there. Whichever word it was absolutely spot on. That's what we've done. We've said, no, let's make the martial arts palatable to people. But hang on, we got to think about it. What are the martial arts? They of the military, of war. Why do we change that? For what? It means we're after money. And so where we live here, we have some extremely violent crime. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that other countries don't have violent crime. But the violent crime we're seeing here is absolutely twisted. For example, recently they got a farmer, tied him up onto a tree, set him alight then they raped and tortured the young lady, the young girl, and the mother until they were both dead. So the whole family dead. This happens on a daily basis. If we go about telling people, okay, we're going to teach you martial arts, and then we've gone and socialized these martial arts to the point where they're not doing anything, then the question comes back on us. Well, what are we teaching?
Right. There's an ethical consideration too. It
is unethical. So we teach people you can die in battle. What we're going to teach you to be is a warrior. You're going to be able to face war or conflict, but you could die. Sorry, that's a fact. And we know that ourselves. If we have home invasions, we're going to give them a hard time, but hopefully we're not going to die, or we're going to bleed less than they are.
Yeah. This ability to feel good with your progress without having to live in a fantasy bubble is fundamental. It's fundamental. And I am a little I tend to be super, super positive in my channel. And I thought one day it would be fun if someone asked me, oh, but are there things that really drive you crazy and you can't stand? And I say, yes, there's a few. And one of them is schools or teachers that live off creating that fantasy bubble, because people don't get strong by living in a bubble. Correct. People get strong by giving themselves targets that they can achieve and prove themselves through hard time and hard work. And it gives you a lot of confidence. I'd say, even if you progress this in life, if it's real, you'll have peace of mind. You'll know it, and you'll be at peace with yourself.
And don't you think that that's why we have a world of deteriorating confidence? Because people aren't doing real things.
Right.
And even the people that do something humble and real, it's real.
Yeah.
But out there now in all the social media, everything is fake. Our lips are fake. The way we move is fake. Everything's fake. And that's affecting our minds.
Yeah. Yeah. And martial arts to me is this double-edged sword. Like many other things, right? When done wrong, they just perpetuate the fantasy bubble. But the martial arts have the potential to bring people back to something authentic. And in this society, it's more relevant than ever because it gives you that contact with reality. When you were talking about the kids and what you're teaching them, but also the adults, I was thinking, those kids and those adults, if it wasn't for going to your school, they'd be using a keyboard all day long, or the phone, into the fine motor skills, which is good to have fine motor skills, but you are disconnected from your own body. Like, as natural creatures with a body, we have created this decoupling of the being. And I think it creates unhappiness and problems, that we don't educate people anymore to be in touch with the physical abilities and the reality of the body. I think you will agree with me in saying some philosophies of the East don't really separate the mind and the body. They are one entity. Health is both. But society is overwhelmingly fine motor skills, not really moving as a unity, not really understanding the capabilities of your body, which is a fundamental part of you. And I think the martial arts have the potential to bring that balance back to the human being.
Agreed. And this is where we, as a community, a martial arts community, we can innovate. We've got children that are coming in today. This didn't even happen 3 years ago. We have children that come in today that cannot run.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. They cannot run. We have to take them, hold their shoulders, and teach them to run.
Yeah.
Before you even go to the next step. Now, how long is it going to last if we carry on down that path?
Yeah.
And martial artists can say, well, hang on, not only have we got something that's better than occupational therapy, we teach left and right on everything we do.
Yeah.
We teach courage, we teach all these different things. We should, as a community, stand up and say, no, hold on, we're actually better than what you think we are.
Yeah.
But then to do that, we've got to stop being a socially acceptable community center, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, stay true to it. Absolutely. It's very valuable in itself. I have a couple more questions, if you don't mind. You mentioned earlier junior black belt, which points to the ranking system that you use. And I think there's an interesting story behind how you came up with your ranking system. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Do you want to?
He's a better speaker than me.
No, you do wonderful too. We need you too to contribute.
So I'll start it and see if she'll take over. So we said to our Sifu, listen, the Chinese, again, it was innovation. Chinese martial arts have got no belts. Why don't we have belts? And he says, we don't need belts. And we said, no, we do need belts. And the reason is because people feel stimulated. They can see their progress, but also Chinese martial arts has become so used to teaching only one-on-one. How do you teach a group? And he said, okay, and what do you propose? Okay, I propose we use the Japanese system of belts. And in those belts, you'll be able to look into a class and see who needs to do what at what level. Okay, he liked that. So we ended up going off to Japan to discover at the proper level, what is a belt? Why is it done? What was the meaning behind it? And so on. We don't like to just ask the school next door. We're not that type of people. When we do the research, we do the hardcore.
So you went all the way to Japan, which you had done before, right? And
Yes.
now you wanted to ask about a proper ranking system. It has
Yes.
value, correct? It has a lot of value.
Yeah, because people don't realize. So let's say you talk about a fifth dan. What is a fifth dan? Has anyone ever thought about it? Oh, I think it's a high rank. Yeah, but what is it? What actually did they have in mind when they made these things? That's what we wanted to know. And then we wanted to consider, okay, so in Chinese culture, we've always had 9 ranks of different things. Let's say in the court, for example. So how can we apply that? And we can keep the same color system. So we have the color belts and then the 9 steps, which is traditional. Traditional to have a ranking system, shall we say, outside of martial arts. So we bring that into martial arts. But then for us, it's easy. We say at the 9th level of black, you are now a top level spy and assassin.
Yeah.
So it's quite easy to calculate what that is.
Yeah.
But that's what each person's job is in their own respective martial art. So recently, Noelle was doing some adjustments to the grading system because we found that she can chip in here. We found that kids at around blue belt were faltering. So she added a little test in there just to
Make sure they,
You want to tell them about that one? So anyway, basically,
you have to calibrate it all the time.
yeah, you have to calibrate and recalibrate because the society is changing.
And yeah, and the kids come in, they change and different. Then you have to be present to what's going on. You can't just make one system and that's it. Not gonna change anything now because that's not very wise. You got to look at it's a living for us. The school is a living organism. Whoever comes in and contributing part of it, even a new student come in will have a different dynamic and bring into the school.
Yeah.
So recently we noticed that after the COVID-19 lockdown, that the kids around Blue Belt had lost a lot of strength and ability, but also mental strength. So Noelle made a very simple thing. Okay, handstand for 90 seconds, 90 seconds. Kids, no problem. Well, they all failed.
They couldn't. They couldn't.
So then they have something to practice on and keep their mind strong. It's a lot of time is the mind over the body. If you think you can just tune out for this last 30 seconds, that your wrist getting sore and everything else, you just tune out and then you just go, then you achieve, then your mind can cover. Yeah, so a lot of our test is the test of the mind, of course the body too, but it's the mind over body part is more than, your body can recover, but your mind will take you over the edge.
And we do fail people.
Yeah, we do fail people.
It's absolute.
So to the parents, this makes, the parents are, oh yeah, when is the next test?
Yeah.
When he's ready.
Wow. It's very real. It's very genuine. But because of that, when the kid achieves that, it'll be a point of being proud of themselves. It'll be real. If you don't do that, it's not real. What does it mean to achieve a rank otherwise?
Yeah, there's one more thing that we'll talk about the grading. When a kid get his grade, just say he's a beginner, he's got his yellow grade, which is able to do certain things on the curriculum. But if he go backward, which is being like, oh, I've got this now, I'm not going to practice. So just say he go backward, he didn't achieve what he did a month ago. Sifu will say, okay, why are you like this? So do it again. If you're still being like sluggish, Sifu will actually take his belt off. It's a big step. So take his belt off and will put it away, and you will train it without a belt. And then all the kids, all the other kids will look at. So it's a lesson for all of them. Okay. And it always come at the result, the kid will grow a step, will get stronger and better. That's if the parent don't interfere. Yeah.
So, but this is where you need the parent support. And this is why it's up to us again as a community to educate our parents, the parents of the children that come to us. Listen, this is what we're going to do, or this is what we've done. We've taken his belt away. We need you to make sure he comes back next week and that he keeps going, because when he gets it back this time, it's going to be a whole different story.
Yeah, change the mentality, change his mindset.
Yeah.
And it's the parents have to see it the right way. We're not trying to be cruel to a kid, but it's this imperatively that kid need to have this little failure early in his life to be successful later in life.
So funny enough, we're actually talking about somebody right now, this little bloke. He had done so well. He's only 4. And he's
the youngest member.
Yeah,
it's only because his parents are really begging us to take him in. So
we don't normally take 4-year-olds, but the parents were at us, please, please, please. So we took him on. He did really well. He got his little yellow belt. He was over the moon. He slept in it. And then he started to slack. So we warned him, and we warned him, and we warned him, as you do with kids. Mm. And then finally it was, okay, I got to take that belt off. And it was this big.
Yeah, I can.
And I kept the belt and I put it on the shelf, and he had to go home without his belt. So I quickly whispered to Mom when she arrived. So I didn't know, but he went home in tears. However, he got his belt back the following time. He came back different, in a different mode.
Try harder.
And since then, even his parents we saw today,
practicing handstand at home all the time, and even teaching a mom.
That's amazing.
Mom, you do it like this. And Mom said, I can't do it. So, well, then you do the first step. It's like this. So, yeah, so taking it seriously now. And he's not even 5 yet. He's only just,
But I think what's important is that these old methods meaning not old Chinese methods necessarily, but old methods of handling kids with a little bit of discipline, but with strong in hand, kind in heart. You have got to have the both.
Yeah, you got to do it for the right reason.
It works.
Yeah. I mean, these kids will forever have this in their lives. They'll remember that and they'll refer back to it. And also from an attitude, from a discipline, from a strength in life standpoint, we'll never leave that behind. But I'm seeing for the first time really how much the ranking system fits into that, because it gives that objective, tangible point of achievement that now this little kid, for example, could not afford to lose.
Yes.
Because that's the end of the world and an embarrassment. And he fought so hard for that. So he had to have it. And that's a whole new level of motivation.
So it's interesting. In ancient times, it was simple. You go to your sifu and you listen, because if you don't, you're going to die.
Yeah.
It was as simple as that.
Yeah.
It was
the
reality was different. Now we don't have that. So what is it that we're striving for? And once we introduce the belt system, if it's well managed, it really is an incentive and a status and everything.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You've really figured out, and it must have taken a lot of work to take. You know, when you were under your apprenticeship with your sifu, to think of the material as a training program that you could create all these discrete phases for. So in other words, creating a socially feasible for kids and adults with belts curriculum has taken a lot of work. It's no easy task.
It has been.
It's been, but we grow with it. Huh?
Yeah, we grew with it.
It's not a one-day affair. It's always a lot of work.
I mean, sometimes we sit here and we think, God, if we had to do it again, would we do it? Probably not, because we're tired.
I think he say that, but he will do it again.
I'm sure. Yeah, but it is a lot of energy. But
it's not like, say, for example, studying medicine. You study medicine, 7 years later, you're a doctor, you earn some good money, you have the respect, you have the things that go with it, right? For us, he's 34 years later, it's nothing.
You mean in socially rewarding? It's not as rewarding as
Yeah.
So it's a much.
You chose a wrong.
It's the wrong path. But unfortunately, the path chose me.
That's it. You know, the path chose you. Sorry.
As you well know.
As I know.
The same process.
It can, anything.
Same what do you call it?
Yeah, we're martial artists are life imprisonment. Really, we're prisoners.
That's so true, because only one with a love and a passion for the arts can understand what you're saying is so true. The arts can give you so much happiness and so much heartbreak.
But that's art, right?
That's art. Yeah, that's a good point. It is.
That's art. Very good. This is why I believe martial arts is art, because how I feel towards it is like art, and it's I can't choose to not do it. It's a fever. It's part of my being, but it also suffer a lot because I want to do so much more. I want to be, Les here, my friend, knows it so well, because I have a morning in which I can't train with anyone, and I'm just panicking. So, oh my God, no, it's hard. It's very hard. But you have been it's been a long journey, and look at it now. You're building an entire generation of people with confidence and strength. So I take my hat off, and I really love what you've done. I think it's paying off big time. And look at all those families that have those kids that you're educating now.
We're very proud of all the
children. Yes, so you should. Yes.
Well,
very good. This Tea with Les and Noelle Conn edition has been wonderful. If you're okay, maybe we'll wrap it up. So we give this consumable bite to the audience. I think it's been wonderful. I'm really, really humbled by the authenticity of your journey and how dedicated you are to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.